yes.
And you also understood from her deposition that Mr. Depp had not had a very long history of being violent with any of his wife or women.
That, she said that as well.
Yeah.
But that's something about Ms. Heard significantly triggered him. She talked about that as well.
I wonder what that could possibly be. What could it possibly be about Amber Heard that caused him to get upset? I wonder why. And like, this is the thing, is like saying triggered him. It's like, that's like, it's his own fault or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, somebody gets triggered. Oh, they're upset. It's like, oh, this is something that was, it happened. The language implies that it is something that occurs internally through no external stimuli. You see what I'm saying? So like, he's getting upset at fucking Amber Heard because of something that is internal that is triggered with him. You see what I'm saying? Like like he's, you see how this like is say gaslighting? Well, it's not gaslighting. It's much different than that.
And Dr. Anderson thought that Mr. Depp had been, her words, well controlled, I think for almost 20 or 30 years, correct?
Up until this point, I believe she said.
I know that you testified that you reviewed medical records.
Yes.
All right. So, you know Miss Heard had a personal nurse.
Correct.
Erin Filati.
Correct.
You didn't interview Miss Filati either.
I did not.
It's convenient.
You know she spent time with Miss Heard on a regular basis during her relationship with Mr. Depp.
So like, she just basically took everything that Amber Heard said completely with no evidence whatsoever, and not only with no evidence whatsoever, but actively disregarding resources that she could have used for evidence. And she just went with it just to fucking railroad this diagnosis down that was improperly conducted. Like, it's unbelievable. This is $500 an hour. Oh my God.
Correct. I had her clinical notes that I reviewed.
Right. And you reviewed her deposition testimony.
Correct.
Some of which the jury's heard, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. And you reviewed the nursing notes.
Yes.
So you know that Ms. Heard admitted to a history of eating disorders to Ms. Filati, correct?
I know that's in the notes. That's nowhere else in any other record, so I'm not sure where that came from.
But
She said yesterday that Amber Heard didn't have any history of eating disorder at all. She said the exact opposite yesterday. Isn't that something? Isn't that just a little bit of something? Wow, that's such an interesting coincidence that she said the opposite. But then if you call her on that, she would say, oh, well, that was just her analysis, and that's not, evidence or something like that. Again, it's obviously disingenuous. If somebody asks if there's any evidence, I think that any reasonable person would assume that a previous person who's worked with them noting down a eating disorder is evidence of some case of it. Changing the story, yeah, it's just changing. Like, it's so obvious. Like, any reasonable person would consider that.
you relied on everybody else's notes.
And there are some things that I disagreed with, like I disagree with Dr. Laurel Anderson about it being mutual abuse.
Right. So the stuff you disagree with, you disregard, and the rest you keep, correct?
That's not correct.
Well, I think that's actually pretty much right. Yeah, it's just about, all right, that's a good one. Yep. That's a pretty good summarization of it. Yep, there you go. Disagree with the stuff I don't like, agree with the stuff I do like. All right, well, there we go.
But that's what you did.
That's not correct.
Right. You know that Ms. Filati saw Ms. Heard immediately after she returned from Australia.
I'd have to look at the notes again to be sure, but I know she did see her when she came back from Australia. That's correct.
Did Ms. Filati document any injuries to Ms. Heard in her notes?
I did not see that in the record.
Okay, so you looked at her notes, and there's no injury to Ms. Heard documented in her nurse's notes following her return from Australia.
Correct.
Okay.
Wow.
You talked about...
Once again, the personal accounts from the person who is clearly and obviously fucking biased are complete differences from what actually is that. And this is what I find to be so funny. Like, how is this even a conversation? Every single time that there is any sort of evidence, nothing can prove this at all. And if anything, all of the evidence proves the opposite. And I think also, think about it like this. So if Amber Heard is recording Johnny Depp without his consent, without him being aware of it, like he did whenever I guess they were in the car together, and you can clearly see that it was Amber Heard that was recording and not Johnny, because Johnny's voice was farther away, so it had to be Amber Heard's phone that was closer to her face, or closer to her, and that's why it was easier to hear her. So it's very obvious this wasn't some sort of, like, you know, microphone in the computer, or sorry, in the car or something like that, or on a computer. This was 9 times out of 10, like, I almost guarantee it's on her phone. So she is intentionally recording him to incriminate him in the future. So number one, doesn't that seem pretty fucking sketchy right from the beginning? And number two, if you are recording theoretically every bad thing or bad action this person has taken, and what you submit as evidence is just a conversation in a car where he says, I'm scared of you and we need to get our shit together, the understanding I would have is that this is probably about as bad as it gets in terms of him instigating violence or aggression. Because if it wasn't, then she would have recorded him doing that. But she didn't. See that? Like, see how this doesn't make sense?
About this concept, which you then defined, lethality.
Yeah.
And you testified there's certain factors of their present relationship where a woman ends up murdered by her partner.
Doesn't matter.
Correct.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
And that's one of the ways you look as to whether a woman is in a very dangerous situation.
Correct.
Finger image now. I'm looking through and it doesn't show the finger image at all. Is it being shown? This is the YouTube channel for this? There's no image. Okay, all right, let's move on.
Can we pull up PX92?
They don't show it? Okay.
So
It's an
it's
evidence.
published to the jury.
Yeah, it will be published.
Do you know what this is?
I believe this is the knife that Miss Heard gave to Mr. Depp as a gift.
Oh, yeah.
Get that crap out of here.
You speak Spanish?
Un poquito?
Do you know what it says?
Yes, it says hasta la
Say
muerta,
hello to my
until
little
death.
friend.
So a woman, you suggest, has characteristics of being afraid for her life, gives her intimate partner a large knife, which she has inscribed until death. That's your testimony?
Well, there's context.
Oh, there's context behind this. Yes, of course. I wonder what the context is. Oh, yeah, the context of her being violent with him in the past. Yeah, I wonder what the context here is. Jesus, just the way that he frames it, man.
Okay.
The context is just crazy.
We can do that later.
Looks like you're...
So we talked about, you talked a little bit about
I'm an equal
Mr.
opportunity
Depp
ass kicker.
purporting to demonstrate.
Amber smirking? No, there's a lot of people that are like that. A lot of psychologically and basically people that are, these are people that are not completely insane. They are borderline insane. And notice, remember what I said before whenever this was the previous time? Where she did something absolutely fucking insane and she was getting called out for it and she thought it was funny? Because she's like, wow, I really am a crazy bitch. You know, and she's doing it again. You have the self-awareness of it. Yeah, that's what it, and this is the same pattern of behavior, the same pattern of expression.
Say hello to my little Son of a bitch. Looks like you're fucked.